What a lovely start we had this week's episode of AEW Dynamite, because it was the finals of the Women's Tag Team Tournament. Obviously, this competition has been going on for ages. It also was a babyface team versus a babyface team, so you knew by the end of it, you were going to feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. I don't even care what anybody says. That is wrestling, man. You're meant to be entertained. Also, hello, my friends, and welcome to Ups and Downs for AEW Dynamite, the only wrestling review show you need. It's nice and simple. I've watched AEW, so either you've come here to agree or disagree with me, or you haven't watched the show and you just want to keep up. Because let's face it, there's way too much wrestling on TV in a couple of days. John Cena is retiring, which is kind of scary. We should all start digging our graves right now. Shouldn't I said that? That's very morose. But yes, let's get into it as we wibble around like Elmo. Let's up those doubts. But yes, it was indeed Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale taking on Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa, and there were so many nice things going on here. Like one of Harley's first ever matches in AEW on Dark was against Willow Nightingale, so that's cool. Flipping, Mina is so talented at wrestling, she left one country to come and do it in another, and we all know the Toni Storm story. She's been kicking ass for like 2 years now. So I just sat there and I just thought, isn't this pleasant? I think it's very pleasant. Let's all sit down and have a cup of tea. There's also a cool story in place here, because we were told, oh hi, given that the timeless love bombs were in that holiday death match last week, they're probably feeling the effects of that. So maybe Harley and Willow can take advantage. And while we kind of left it lie after that, if you want to get down into nitty gritty and make that argument, I just thought it was very, very nice. There's that word again, that somebody planted the seeds. Because it was a babyface versus babyface match. Willow Nightingale got a hot tag and Toni Storm got a hot tag, and they were just running around the place. And at one point, Toni even hit Storm Zero, and Willow Nightingale broke it up at the 1-2 ooh. So you could be like, I don't know who's gonna win. Eventually the tag klaxon went off as well, so everybody was fighting, when Nightingale kind of grabbed Storm and threw her into the floor. I mean, you gotta do something. And while Mina then decided, well, I'll go for my big old driver now, Harley was able to reverse that. She hit "This is my finishing move," whatever the flub that thing is called, when she tagged in Willow, because they are friends for life, like the Care Bears. Nightingale got in there, she hit the babe with the power bomb, and man, they got the 1-2-3. They did this great interview afterwards. They felt genuinely pleased with themselves and just life in general. Then the timeless love bombs are back and everybody hugged, because once again, it was good guy and good guy. No notes, man. This is exactly what they should have done. And how awesome is it that Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale have just won some titles? But the big question is, will these championships stay on TV? Because if we learned anything from American, I suppose, tag team women's championships, oh my gosh, they can vanish. But we shouldn't tar AEW with that brush. We're only just getting started. But they've got the talent, they've got the division, they've got the depth. I think you can do loads with this. I'm very excited about it. I liked it a lot. Giving it up. Samoa Joe and the Opportunity was then backstage, and Samoa was super pumped to wrestle Eddie Kingston, because he was like, listen, my friend, you wanted the old version of Samoa Joe, but you didn't realize that he's been here all the time, and even though you're about to get your moment, I'm about to remind you how this wrestling business does work, and I'm gonna crush your bones. So he's just the absolute goat, man. Like, all you gotta do is give him a microphone and he will give you the speeches. When we cut to Jon Moxley, who was hanging out in a stairwell with the Death Riders, I mean, I think by now they could have afforded something better. Now, he basically knows he's been having a tough time the last few months, but that's what the Continental Classic is all about. He understands what he is going to do when he's going to do it. When Danny Garcia sort of jumped up, was all like, man, if you think you're just going to win without the effort, then you're a clown. And I was like, all right, Dan, you need to calm down. But of course, he is going after the TNT title later, so I think we're trying to build more of the show around him. We'll get to it. And we did use that to go into our first C2 match of the evening, and it was Jack Perry taking on Okada, because very sadly Darby Allin is out of the tournament after suffering an injury. And it's Darby Allin. The man throws himself around for a living, so I hope he does okay. For him to be taken out of the game must be something really bad. But at the same time, Jack Perry versus Okada, if you had told somebody this match was going to be possible on television back in 2018, they would have called you nuts. There's also one of the most interesting reversals we've seen for a long time, because Okada was going to do the tombstone, and Jack Perry bit his groin. You can now do that what you wish. Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson I should say, had a meltdown over this. Can't lie, it made me laugh. It's only Okada's fault as well, because earlier to get out of the snare trap, he had gone and bit Jack Perry's hand. And while a lot of Continental Classic matches, as you will also see later, do have a bunch of jeopardy, I would say I think it was pretty obvious that Okada was going to diss one, but it was still so damn entertaining to watch. It's just sports, man. That's what the C2 is, right? It's sports, and you have a league, and you have points, so you can just sit down there and go, well, Okada is top of the league, figuratively speaking, and Jack Perry's only just come into the thing. Surely it's going to go Okada's way, but they did do some teasing. It's just the best concept. if one day AEW came out and said, you know what, we're just going to do a league throughout the year, eventually I'd regret supporting it, but at first, I would be doing the dance of joy. Commentators were also telling us, oh, by the way, this is Jack Perry's first singles match in over a year, so he has to keep that in mind too. I don't understand how people say that AEW doesn't have stories. You don't have to like the stories, but once again, to go back to what I was just talking about, this is the most sports story you could get. Jack's first mistake is when he tried to flip off Okada, or maybe he accidentally hit the D-pad. And of course, Okada later on did it back to him because he loves doing that. And before long, it looked like Jack Perry was going to get the win. But he basically ran into an Emerald Fusion, I guess you would call it, when Okada went nope, smashed him with the Rainmaker, and he got the 1, 2, 3. I don't know how else to put it, right? I just keep repeating myself, but every single match of this C2 is just so well contested. Now, of course, Don Callis got in the ring after this because he can't help himself, and he was surrounded by the Don Callis family, which is now ludicrously large, and he was all like, Jack Perry, I thought that was a great contest, and you looked really, really good. Would you like to join our family? And also, I have that Young Bucks money for the pay-per-view. I will give it to you, and I'll give you a good old signing on bonus as well. Now, Jack Perry was kind of screwed because Callis also said, if you say no, look around the ring, we will murder you. Jack was like, well, I am going to refuse. When he started throwing bones, and of course he got absolutely destroyed because the wrestling numbers game was against him. This is when Luchasaurus came out, and his big plan was to get to the ring and stop. Maybe he was having like flashes of a meteorite coming down and destroying Earth and ruining all his friends, but actually it kind of was part of the ruse because then the Young Bucks turned up with chairs and they chased the Don Callis family off. That's a bit like, guys, you could have executed this plan a lot better. It was kind of fun though, because eventually the Young Bucks were going to kill Don Callis, but he was like, no, just take the money and leave me alone. And if you can believe it, it was Takeshita that took the bullet for his fake dad, and Rocky Romero took it too, when the good guys look at the bad guys, and the bad guys look at the good guys. Because very soon, next week, we're going to do a match. It got confirmed later on as well, because Don Callis was all like, listen, I have Echicera, I have Takeshita, and I have Okada. So, Young Bucks, why don't you go and have a friend, and you can take us on in Manchester, which is where Dynamite's coming from next week. And then we also got another clip of Matt and Nick going to Luchasaurus and saying, you can be our partner. And he quite literally went, so I think he actually is a dino now. He pointed to Kenny Omega's locker room. Thankfully, Kenny was in there. He walked out and he said, you know what? Let's do it one last time. But I don't need your money. I'm doing it because I hate Donathan Callis. So all of this went the way that you'd probably expect, and it is kind of weird that Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks made up at that pay-per-view, and now they're making up again, but we've just put everything in place. So in 2026, we can have a bunch of elite matches, and really they should go out there and win those trios titles, and there are some championships we can bring back to regular TV. Also, to tie it in as well, that kind of Jack Perry match was very, very good. I'm giving it an up. It all just worked. The Conglomeration were then celebrating with Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale as Roderick Strong sat in the corner like, man, I didn't want to come to this stupid party. When we got a big video for Mercedes Moné because she lost her Ring of Honor title over the weekend at the Ring of Honor show. So maybe, just maybe, talking about 2026, her downfall is about to begin. We were then backstage with Eddie Kingston after this, responding to Samoa Joe earlier, and my gosh, he's just the best promo in the world. He's like, yep, I'm nervous, it's good to be nervous, it reminds you why you care. And really, I just want to be warming up right now, but I respect you, Rennie Paquette. But that's right, I've got to go out there, and I've got to remind everybody who Eddie Kingston is, and if nothing else, I've got to do it for myself. If anyone is getting into wrestling right now, I think these are the kind of promos that we should all be trying to cut, because he just sounds like a real human being. And as ever, we turn to the Does Eddie Kingston Know Wrestling is a Work Machine? And of course it says no, and I hope he never realizes this, because nobody is realer, strange way to put it, than Eddie Kingston, and I was desperate for him to win. Even though deep down in my Tootsie Toes I knew he wasn't going to. It's the magic of wrestling. This sort of loving continued as well because we cut to Tony Schiavone. He was like, oh, hi, let's talk to Mark Briscoe, who did walk out. He had a similar kind of message. So many people thought I couldn't win the big one, but now look, I am the TNT champion, and if you still don't believe in me, you can kiss my ass. This is when Marina Shafir, Wheeler Yuta, and Daniel Garcia walked to the ring. This was kind of cool because it was unexpected. They did stroll through the crowd, and Wheeler was essentially going, yeah, we don't care about any of that because we think you're a giant dickhead. Of course, eventually Garcia did take over because he's going to be the challenger for this belt. He was like, oh man, Mark Briscoe, you have more kids than you have teeth. I was like, there's no way that is true. And isn't it going to be a shame when not only do I take that title from you, but I break your leg? Because how are you going to feed your family then? I think Tony Khan is a nice guy and he'll keep paying Mark Briscoe, but I mean, it's a pretty good insult. Briscoe then promised he was going to whip Danny's ass at the weekend because that is when the match is going down. when they got into a bit of a scuffle, like Mark slapped around the face, and Marina and Wheeler held Daniel Garcia back. I was like, wait a minute. Death Riders, you spent every single week going around and murdering people, and here it's 3-on-1, and for some reason you don't want to fight. Maybe this did go over my bald head, but it was a little bit strange. And that aside, everything they did do here was fine, but it also didn't really leave me going, I need to see Daniel Garcia versus Mark Briscoe. Maybe just because I do not believe that Daniel Garcia is going to win. And that's the idea of these segments, right? You're meant to leave them going, I can't believe what's going to happen here. So it's interesting, and the match will be good. We've seen them fight before. They do have great chemistry. I'm going to do that thing that I always do, but it's like a thumb middle. I actually think that's fair. Like, it wasn't the greatest segment you've ever seen, but also there's nothing bad about this. It was very serviceable, if I try and say that word, but it kind of just needed more oomph or more something. We'll wait and see where we get to on next week's episode of Dynamite. But yeah, thumb middle. I think it should be a thing. It's not like I overuse it, is it? Shouldn't have done that. Skeleton was then telling us, oh no, there's a situation backstage, and it wasn't Triangle of Madness, who was just laying waste to the women's division when Chris Statlander was here, and she got rid of Julia Hart, and she got rid of Sky Blue. She tried to get Tekla too, but Tekla ran away, which sounds like a nursery rhyme. And look, I can't say on one show, not the other show, but this is very similar to Monday Night Raw. We have a brand new women's champion, and I just don't think we're doing enough with her. I mean, she can't cut a promo in the ring every single week, but I think she should be doing that more often than not if she is having matches. At the moment, Chris Statlander doesn't really do that at all. I don't really know what her direction is. So we've got the big 6-person tag on next week's show. Just keep it simple, right? I think that we should be doing more, and I think we should really be establishing her as not only the champion, but as like a next level star, which is what happens when you do win those titles, that I do have to give it down to. Ever since she won the thing, I just think there's a better way in order to make her feel like a bigger deal. At the moment, we're kind of just staying the course. It's not a massive problem. I think AEW will sort it, but it was just kind of funny that she got like 3 minutes and we were done. When it was indeed Shibata and Powerhouse Hobbs taking on Swerve, Strickland and Hangman Adam Page, I do have to say, it's so damn weird. The Hook wasn't involved in this match at all. Like, he was going to come out with Samoa Joe later, but right now I thought the focus of Hangman's rage would be Hook, and here he is taking on the rest of Samoa Joe and the opportunities. I don't know, I'll leave that one up to you, but I kind of feel like after Hook turned heel, he should have done a little bit more than just one line in a promo, and he did have a good line. It was like, I am the best second-generation wrestler ever. That pissed so many people off. Actually, I do have to give it a down, because Hangman also cut a promo later when he went, Samoa Joe, I'm coming for you again. I really think you have to whoop Hook's ass first. Screw all of that though, because Swerve and Hangman as a team were so damn good, because they do come across like main event players. When they were working to the ring, they had a chain, and they had a staple gun. Apparently this was totally fine. And instantly the Opportunity Dojoers, or the Dojo Opps, whatever the hell we're calling them, tried to take them out. Of course they got stapled, of course they got chained. And as soon as Shibata had the staple gun, clearly he's never used one before, he tried to get his enemies, and he stapled one of his own friends instead. If I was part of that dojo, I'd be like, you know what? I'm out. So somebody absolutely needs to ring HR after this when we did that awesome brawl thing that we do in Anarchy in the Arena, where you put a line down the screen and the left side is showing you some shenanigans here and the right side is showing you some shenanigans there. People were being put through tables. It was just an absolute war. When they eventually got in the ring, the referee, fine, now we can start it, and we got ding, ding, ding on the bell. It was a very fun 5 minutes. We even saw Adam Page hit Hobbs with a Christmas tree at the moment. I'm gonna pretend they stole that from me, which they absolutely didn't, but it's a great way to show you this.
Rolling round the outside, the ballroom's up, going with them.
That's right, it is me on my last Progress match, where I hit somebody with a Christmas tree. And actually right now, you can go watch that match on the Hooked on Wrestling streaming service, just Google that. And some people have actually told me it's my best match ever. I'm not gonna lie, I was very proud. Don't worry about that, because the match then did officially begin. And Hangman Adam Page was gonna use a chair, and the referee took it off of him. Now listen, the commentator said, well actually, you know, once that bell rung, it's a tornado tag, but it's not a no DQ. And later on, Shibata was punching people in the balls, and Tony Schiavone said, well, you know what they say, it's anything goes. I actually think the commentators weren't 100% sure, because they kind of went back and forth on this. But I'm going to give it a down, mostly because it confused me. It made me feel stupid. It's like, wait a minute, you told me no DQ, and now you tell me anything goes? It doesn't matter. It makes no difference, and everybody makes mistakes. But yes, it left me a little bit like, what? Strickland then appeared from nowhere to save Prince Nana, and that was totally awesome. And honestly, Swerve is a big old boy now, and he was still doing stuff like 450s and rolling flatliners. I've seen some discourse that people think he should choose a lane. I don't. He has become even more unique than he already was. I just love him. Samoa then soon applied a submission, so Swerve stopped the absolute crap out of him. And it was here when Swerve and Hangman actually were being a very good duo, as the announcers talked about, and they did so well. Eventually, Powerhouse Hobbs went to hit him, and he smashed into Shibata instead. I mean, if you are a heel tag team, that's absolutely going to happen to you eventually. The good guys then just went move crazy as Powerhouse Hobbs got through a table, and that is when Hangman was able to hit the buckshot lariat when Swerve Strickland carried on with the house call, and Shibata sold that like he'd stopped working. They got the 1, 2, 3 as we saw Josh Alexander watching on, because he's going to be taking on Swerve on Collision. But this was just a super duper excellent fun wrestling match. I can't remember if I said this, but Swerve, Strickland, Hangman, and Page just have main event player energy. Honestly, I think you could show this to anybody, even if they were just on the cusp of wrestling, and they'd have a good time. I mean, it was crazy, and it was nuts, but you knew that was going to happen. Giving it up, super fun time 9000. We then cut to Stokely Hathaway, who had the best line, because he was like, some people think the most dangerous addictive drug is out there on the streets, but it's not. It's this camera here, because when wrestlers see one, they get addicted to asking for title shots. I was like, Stokely, you're 100% right. Anyway, this has happened to the Bang Bang Gang, so it will be them versus FTR, I believe on Collision, or maybe next week's episode of Dynamite, but all of it is going to be nonsense, because the Bang Bang Gang are going to go back to the back of the line, because FTR are going to win. I really enjoy Stokely Hathaway, and actually in many ways, he's one of the most underrated dudes in all of wrestling. I think we did get to the highlight of the night after this, and that is saying something because the main event was great, but it's back to the C2. It was Carl Fletcher taking on Mike Bailey. And if you walked in here right now and said, Simon, do you think that's the best television match of the year? I'd be hard pushed to come up with anything else. This was absolutely fantastic, and in many ways a window, not even a window, it was evidence of what modern professional wrestling can be. Now I'm just going to zoom right to the end here because you can just go watch this for yourself, but honestly, after they had both brutalized each other, Carl Fletcher did that terrifying powerbomb into the ring apron, he threw Mike Bailey back into the ring, squished him in the corner, and nailed him with this massive brainbuster, and the announcers, the wrestlers themselves, everything how this was framed was telling you, Carl Fletcher is going to win. So when Mike Bailey kicked out the 1-2, this entire place went crazy, even more so because Carl Fletcher was like, oh fine, I'm still going to hit you with a brainbuster, when Bailey turned it into the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment surprise roll-up. Carl Fletcher kicked out of that again when they went tete-to-tete for a little bit longer. When I think Carl was going for a brainbuster part 2, and again Mike Bailey turned it to the most devastating moves in all of sports entertainment. This time he got like a really funky pin. He got the 1, 2, 3. The reaction to this was awesome. Even Kevin Knight came out like, Mike Bailey, you did it. Carl sold this like he'd been told you're never allowed to eat pizza again. It was just a fantastic finish. Once again, reminded you in the C2, it doesn't matter who you are. Carl Fletcher, my nan, some dog going rough. Anybody can lose, anybody can win, and you've got to keep an eye on that league. And honestly, I have zoomed through the rest, but there were so many sequences in here that will make you go, oh my gosh, how are they doing it? And what I really enjoyed is at one point the fans were like, man, we're going to cheer both of them. And I think Carl was like, no, you will not cheer me. I'm meant to be the bad guy. So he just got so down and devious and was doing terrible things. It doesn't just get an up, it gets a golden up. And the only reason, like I say, I have gone fast forward is because I can't do it justice. It is so damn good to watch. It is so much fun. And I know I'm repeating myself because it did come within the confines of the C2, which is meant to be like a sports league. It felt like two major teams going at it. So yeah, golden up. Bravo Carl Fletcher, bravo to Mike Bailey. For some reason I can't say the word bravo, but they have had terrific 2025s and they deserve some kind of cherry on top or some sort of full stop. That's what this was, and I shouldn't even say deserve, earn. It's because they are so good. And if you're talking about bell-to-bell wrestlers and you want to throw in two names that could be among the best, you've got to say Carl Fletcher and you've got to say Mike Bailey. Totally brilliant. This is when Hangman Page did cut his promo saying, Samoa Joe, I'm coming for you, and barely mentioned Hook. Maybe I'm missing something, or maybe something big is going to happen, but it doesn't matter, because we then did get to Eddie Kingston versus Samoa Joe in our Winter is Coming main event for the title. And while I didn't think that Edward was going to be able to win, as always, there's this tiny bit right here in my tum-tum where I want to believe, because that's just what Edward Kingston does. Now, Hook did come out with Samoa Joe, but he was an idiot right away, and Chip Kingston, so the ref was like, right, you have to leave. But the reason I really did like it is because it meant that Eddie and Samoa Joe could just have a proper fight, and at first Samoa Joe was roughing him up, so from nowhere Kingston grabbed him and gave Samoa Joe this terrifying exploder suplex. I actually thought he was going to land on his head. We then got back to some more biting nonsense because this episode of Dynamite was obsessed with that. But one of these was after Samoa Joe had applied the STFU and basically done a salute to John Cena. I mean, if that didn't put a smile on your face, well, you're probably a grumpy person, but that's totally fine. You're allowed to grump. Eventually, Eddie lowered the straps as well, and the fans was going nuts for this. And he was able to smack Samoa Joe at one point, but he couldn't get the 1, 2, 3 because Samoa Joe fell out to the outside. When he put him back in the ring, and Joe tried to fight back, so Eddie went nope and hit him with a cutter out of nowhere. And just as he was going to go for back fist number 2, which sounds like something terrible, never do that, he fell into the Coquina clutch, and this was even better still. Because Eddie Kingston just gets it. There's this weird, I don't even know what the right word would be, reaction to people tapping out like, oh my gosh, they're so weak now. They should have been allowed to pass out instead. That ain't how it works in the real world. Have you seen any MMA fight? People are tapping out all the time. So even here, Eddie Kingston hadn't had his 8 hours and he was drifting off. At the last second, he did tap out and it made it just the most legit finish ever. Because if you are in an actual fight, you don't want to pass out. You don't want to go to sleep. That's not a pleasant experience. So as soon as Eddie Kingston's brain went, this could be bad for us, bro. Like I say, he did tap. It wasn't the floor, it was Samoa Joe's arm, maybe it was his own arm, but he tapped out to the Coquina clutch, and somehow this just made it even better, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did sit down and had that conversation, and honestly, everything leading up to this point, kind of repeating myself with the Carl Fletcher-Mike Bailey match, but it's just back and forth and it's aggressive, and maybe that's why it works so well as well, because Carl and Mike was all over the place and crazy, but this was like gritty and horrible and evil. Don't even know what that means, but you should absolutely watch these both back to back. It was so damn good, I almost gave it a golden up, but I always promised I wouldn't overdo those, so I am going to give it an up, and then when no one's looking, I'm going to stick another up on there, because it's just Eddie Kingston and Samoa Joe. There's something about them, man. They make this stuff feel real, or as real as wrestling can feel, because you never actually want it to be totally realistic, because that would suck. You wouldn't even be able to do an Irish whip. Bryan Danielson was throwing in great lines as well, like, well, Eddie Kingston wanted the real Samoa Joe and he got him. And honestly, some people could get so mad at this. When this Dynamite was done, I was like, thank flub, AEW does exist. Because in this, guys, where else were you going to get Samoa Joe versus Eddie Kingston for a world championship on international TV? So it's both definitely worth the watch. I don't know what Eddie Kingston does do now, but eventually, and maybe within the next 12 months or within 2026, he does have to be the world champion. It doesn't even matter if it's only for 24 hours. I just think it would make everybody go nuts. This really did feel like his comeback here, like he had that horrendous return from that year layoff, but now he is back. Samoa Joe rules, Eddie Kingston rules. I really enjoyed this episode of Dynamite. You know what? That's getting an up to. Now, of course, if you did indeed watch Dynamite or you have an opinion, please do let me know in the comments below. You may think I'm crazy, which is totally fine. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Check out my thoughts on Monday Night Raw with ups and downs, which is on the screen right now. You just give it a click. Otherwise, have a great week, my friend. I will be back for SmackDown. And yes, I'll be back for the John Cena retirement extravaganza. There is a rumor going around he may open the show. I personally don't believe that because it could be crazy. But hey, if he does, we can talk about that too. Goodbye.